Good evening and welcome to Sim Racing Online. You join us for a new, brand spanking new series. I said new twice there. 1950s Grand Prix series to be exact. So 6 rounds around some really classic tracks. We're going to be starting off with an absolute doozy. So, my name is Neil Wood. I'm going to be the commentator for this evening for 60 minutes of racing around what should be a very difficult track for these drivers. We are set for about 15 drivers on track. I can see people out practicing at the moment, but we are at Pescara today. Pescara is one of the longest F1 tracks to ever exist, and as I said, it's going to be a big challenge for our drivers this evening. So, if you haven't been with us before, you know that we do 6 race championships, and this is one of them. So let's have a look at the schedule. We're going to be doing for the next few weeks. So, Pescara is our first event, and then we will be heading to the Saxon Ring on the 12th of March. We're then going over to the Northern Ireland with the Grand Prix of Dengrod on the 18th of March. And then we will be heading over to Italy on the, I believe that says it is either 26th or the 28th of March, I can't really read that, but Napoli, so we'll be by the sea in Italy for the Grand Prix di Napoli. For our 5th round we will be going to Rouen, a very popular track in France, on the 2nd of April, and our last round we'll be heading to the 60s version on the 9th of April of Zandvoort. So that should be fun. So we're using 1950s cars today. We do have a wide range of cars, and I will take you through them. We have a lot of them. So let's get this all sorted here with the stuff. Okay. So, as far as our cars are concerned, cars that we've got on show today are the Aston Martin DB4. Very interesting car. Looks kind of like a leather-seated bicycle. And then you've got the Connaught Type B. Connaught Type B, under 1,000 kilos, debut in 1955. British Grand Prix, which was held at Aintree. And we have the Cooper T43, 1475cc, only 500 kilograms, so quite light. It seems to be a popular choice in the server at the moment. Debuted on the 1957 at Monaco Grand Prix. Now, one of my particular favourites, the Ferrari 246. The 246 is a very nice sounding engine. 2,417 cc, 560 kilos, and debuted in 1958 at Buenos Aires in Argentina. And you got the very interesting looking Lancia D50 with the fuel tanks on either side. It's a very unique looking machine. 2,488 cc, only 620 kilos, and debuted in 1954 at the Spanish Grand Prix. Then we've got that Lotus. Driver will be sitting right back in the chassis, Type 16. I wonder if anyone's going to take that one today. 1964cc. One of the lightest vehicles in the field, 490 kilos. And it debuted in 1958 at the French Grand Prix at Reims. We then got another one of my personal favourites, the Maserati 250F. 2,493cc, 630 kilos. And again, another car that debuted in 1954 at the Argentine Grand Prix. That was Buenos Aires. So that is your cars. So we're going to head out onto track so we can see what's going on with our drivers. So let's switch over to drivers so we can see what we're doing. So we already got a few people. Ooh, that was kind of a bit fun. we've got some drivers out on track at the moment. Now I have been watching a couple of the drivers come around the circuit, and as you can see, there's a lot of places to go off and a lot of things to hit. And it is just going to be a case of survival today, because it is a long circuit at 25 kilometres, so it's going to be very difficult for these drivers to negotiate. So it's just staying alive. We've got a lap time of about just under 9 minutes, so it's a long lap, kind of comparable to what someone might be running at the Nordschleife in Germany, but we are running it in Italy. So looking at my list, on the list we have Cooper Climax 243 seems to be the popular choice. We do have a Lotus 16 on the circuit at the moment, which is good to see. A couple of Lancia D50s. It's nice to see there's a couple of Ferrari 246s as well. Drivers will have to take these cars throughout the whole season. So where some of the Cooper Climaxes, which you think might be a little bit down on power, there is a couple of long straights on this track, so you're going to wind your way through the villages through Pescara and through other villages in Italy, but two long straights. Drafting will happen. You've got to be very wary of obviously these cars having pretty much very weak brakes. So maybe Shepherd hitting one of the straights. Pass through the wildlife. So looking at my list, I haven't seen anyone take the Aston Martin yet. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone picks on the Aston Martin. But it is just a case of survival today. But we are seeing times at the top at the moment at 8:56.6. This is an extended practice an extended qualifying session today, so drivers can get a lap in. So it should be about 25 minutes or 20 minutes for qualifying. So we're set for 60 minutes of this. How many laps we're going to get out of it? But we've got a track temperature of about 42 degrees. And a temperature about 27, 28 degrees, so it's quite warm, warm track temperature. And these tyres are pretty hard, so it's to warm these things up, we're going to need to be very careful going to the first couple of turns, because the circuit starts off very, very tight. First section of the track. And as you come through the second sector, you head onto the straight, and you basically have one hand on the wheel, look at the scenery, and pray that you've remembered your braking points. If you get it all wrong at the end of that straight, then that's going to be a very short stop. So Maddie Shepherd just hanging along one of the long straights, past alongside the railway line, or the tram line. As you on the left hand side. Let's have a possibility of looking at the car telemetry as well. Let's see what kind of speeds these cars are doing. To 281 kilometres an hour for the Cooper Climax. Braking really, really hard down into this right hand at the end of the straight. Start another lap. Let's look like the track map is out of sync with the game. Unfortunately, that doesn't really help me, but let's see if we can get that sorted in the meantime. So heading out onto the main straight, see the spectators there, wondering who has survived and who hasn't. So this is Michael Lazarick in one of the Scuderia Ferraris, a nice yellow one for a change. Again, heading down that long long straight next to the channels. Really hard down next to the trees, and this should be the last corner of the track, really. Let's see that. You can see the chassis just dipping down into ground. Just pulling off into the pits. You're basically pulling into a car park, which is what it looks like. So Gert Van Osch is one of the drivers that has decided to take the Lotus 16. It's a very unique car shape with the driver sitting so far back, which is very interesting to look at. Now, as far as the lightest car on the course is the Lotus 16 at 490 kilos. So whether or not that's a help or not, and the lowest engine capacity is the Cooper Climax with 1475. So it's interesting that our drivers have taken, the majority of the drivers have decided to take the Cooper Climax because of its low power. Maybe they feel it will serve them well through the twisty section of this track. So this course is basically cut up in 3 sections. The first section, which is going through the villages, up, down, left, right. You've got to mind the trees. It's very, very tight. I'm not sure we're going to see much passing through those sections. And then you've got the first big long straight, as we see Marius Labioda having all sorts of problems bouncing around in the undergrowth there. And so if you get it wrong, you get it wrong in a very, very bad way. So I'm just looking at the track map to see if I can see that. So the first section of the track heads through the village called Pescara, and heads out through the villages of Montana, Spaltor, Furnas, Santa Maria, and then Capelli, and then we head along straight through Mulino, and Montisvano, and we take a quick right, and then we head down one of the straights for the third sector, and through Medora, and then through what looks like a bus stop section, and then we finish the lap. So it's a very scenic route up the mountain and down again. So we're getting some good views through these villages here. So riders are going to have to be very wary of any solid object, particularly all of these posts. I think most of those posts are solid. So no cutting of apexes. You could really do with pace notes for this course, because it does feel like a rally course. So Pescara did hold the 1957 Grand Prix, the Formula 1 Grand Prix, but Ferrari wasn't actually present because they were worried about driver safety. Back in 1957, driver safety seemed to be an afterthought, so it's very interesting to learn that driver safety was a thing back then. So it looks like we're heading to qualification. So we're going to see who is going to be the first out on track. So as I said, this circuit does have 2 long straights, and apparently they're 3.4 miles, 5.5 kilometers. I kind of compare it to the straight along the Le Mans circuit, similar to Targa Florio as well. He nicknamed it the Flying Kilometre. Unfortunately, there was the fatality of Guy Moll in 1934. A race that was held here under a different series, not Formula 1 back then. But the highest point of the circuit is 184 metres above sea level at Sport. That's part way around the circuit. So it looks like Gert van Osch in the Lotus is the first now, and I wonder what these drivers are thinking about strategy, whether it's best to head out and follow somebody. If someone comes off the track, you don't really want to be caught up in an accident because you only got 23 minutes to put in a fast lap, so these drivers are going to be able to put in maybe 2 fast laps. So the circuit was around since 1924, so very old. It's only had 2 layouts to it. We're using the relatively modern layout, which ceased to exist in 1961, but it was used from 1934. And looking on my list, the race lap record was Sterling Moss in Vanwell with a 9-minute 44. So it's slightly faster than Sterling Moss. And that was in 1957. Again, these drivers don't have the fear for their life. Maybe a fear for their hands if they've got a direct drive ball and they hit one of their pack over these posts. So this circuit did hold non-championship races. So it was official that it was in 1957. That it was a Formula 1 Grand Prix, but it did hold non-championship races way back. So you can imagine the pre-war cars going around here, which must have been absolutely stunning. So other series that have taken part here, we had the World Sports Car Series in 1961, so they only did one more as well. There was also a series called Copa Acerbo, which took place from 1924 up to 1961, which I believe, from my little bit of research I've done, it was varying regulations on sports cars. Apparently this was the first circuit to ever have an artificial chicane to slow the drivers down. I think the artificial chicane is actually just before the start-finish straight. That's the only bit that I can see that breaks up the straight. It's weird considering you have this big long straight. The cars would have already been up to speed, so I'm not sure what that will do to slow the cars down. But safety back then, I thought was more of an afterthought. Just wanted to go as fast as possible, and as long as possible. You can see going through these villages. Imagine the spectators watching these cars back then. So we haven't even finished the first sector of this course. So now it's coming through for an district. A bit loose, and pushing a bit just for the outlet. Remember, this isn't the time lap. We've still got to do one more. So we've got 15 drivers keeping an eye on the course at the moment. And it looks like everyone's going to try to do that, which is good to see. I'm not expecting anything with the weather. It's going to be dry and sunny. So one of the tightest corners on the track, this hairpin. I think we should be able to handbrake it around, but it's one of the tightest on the course. Down the hill into the Villa Centenaria district, village. There's so many houses around this part, so spectators. And through the Capelli, or it could be Capel, I'm not sure. So I've run off that part of the course, because that part of the course seems to arrive before you realise. I'm getting my car beached just before coming to that hairpin section. So I'm going to go through this part here. Left-hander, and then we're going to be heading out onto what is one of the straights. So we'll be starting in the next sector. It tightens up a bit there. And here we go, this is where we just floor the throttle and brake. So plenty of time to think about, did I put in enough fuel? So it's a big section of the first sector. The first and second sector are pretty much going through the villages. So these are going to be very careful to get out onto the straight. Hopefully they're not going to be spread out by the time you get to the straight, because I think drafting battles like these straights is going to be very interesting to watch. Straight, let's head back to one of our other drivers on the course. So we've got Phil Brown and the Lancia D50. As I say, 2 fuel tanks at the side of this car, very unique looking compared to the other cars we've got in the series. Jim Cavallo in the Maserati 250F. Favourite of mine, just for how big the engine is. Probably doesn't sound as meaty as you think it should. Perhaps. We've got it's Costas Penzos, just making it around one of the tightest portions. It's very like Monaco around this section here. It's the Cooper Climax, so one of the lightest cars in the field. It has a little bit of a spin, but that shouldn't be too much trouble as long as we get going again. Marius Lebioda in the heavy Ferrari. Didn't actually look on my list what the heaviest of the cars were. So we know that the Cooper Climax is the one down on power. The Lotus 16 is the lightest of the field. So the Connaught Type B at 15 kilos is the heaviest of the lot. No one's decided to take the Connaught Type B. And in terms of engine capacity, it's actually the Aston Martin DBR4 and the Maserati 250F that are the ones with the biggest engine capacity. Not surprising really how big the front engine car is back then, so. Let's head back to Gert Van just coming across the line. This will be starting his right with 15 minutes to go, so he's going to get in at least this lap. So he doesn't have any problems. It's possibly going to go into this first section here. section. You're a little bit run up, but you're not going to hit any of these curves. I suppose you can compare this a little bit to the Nordschleife, just with how long the course is. 25 kilometres, these drivers. It looks like two of our drivers are in close proximity. I think that might be Shepherd. That is indeed Matty Shepherd in the number 26 Cooper Climax. That's our first mistake. Matty Shepherd was able to avoid. It's very easy for someone in front of you to follow and they have an accident. It's very easy to get sucked in and have an accident yourself. So it's very avoided. We did see lap times of under 9 minutes for these drivers, so I can imagine there's going to be a bigger range of lap times as well. It happens with these long circuits. Just keeping up the minimum speed is quite difficult sometimes. I think with 60 minutes of racing, I imagine these drivers are going to be pretty worn out after this Grand Prix. So these cars are part of what's called the GT Rival Series. Model that includes some sports cars as well. But this is the Richmond and Gordon Trophy, I think it's referred to as. It's a series that runs at Goodwood level. So that has covered. It does say he's got a purple sector in the first one now. I don't know if that was before his accident or after. Let's have a look at the Valentine's here. It's showing me on my list here that Tony Talboti, hopefully he's got custom paint job there. It's a bit scratched to me. It's a bit rusty, a bit scratched. So we should be able to tell him apart from others, but it looks like he's got the fastest first sector in 2.6. Maybe Shepherd this behind 2.9. So now one of our Coopers, this time in a blue Cooper. So he's trying down the geese. There's another driver that's got a custom skin. Looks like he has made it nice and dirty. As was probably after the Grand Prix back then, it probably looked a bit like that. So good to see that a couple of the drivers have got custom paint jobs. So we're still waiting for people to come out of the second sector. They're heading towards it right now. In the Ferrari. Listen to that engine. Lovely engine there. Looks like it's just coming past the pits. Start his lap. So with 9 minutes and 30 to go, he may have this lap and be able to get another one in. Shepherd heading up the first straights here, and the Reno straight as he's going off. So Tony Talboti, sector 1 is the fastest. We've got Matty Shepherd that is fastest in sector 2. A number of seconds, 6.4. So looks like Tony Talboti behind has got a cheeky toe. So Cooper versus Cooper. Oh, in fact, right, the 16 versus Cooper. You've got to remember where your braking point is here. Perhaps Tony is out of the draft here. Maybe he's suffering with the engine temps. But I did see in practice that people were complaining a little about engine temperatures. It was, as I say, it was quite hot. 27 degrees, 28 degrees. So spot the braking point, don't get it all wrong. He's been flat out for about a minute. So the last thing you want to do is to head into the barrels at the end of all the straights. So we do a right hand turn and then we're on the straight for another minute. Inside the rail course on the left hand side. So I can see from my map here, this circuit is right by the seaside. So along the straight is actually going alongside it would be the seaside next to Pescara. Is that sheep? Is that cows? I think it's sheep. I find with courses that do have long straights, you can take a moment just to relax your shoulders a little bit. Take a moment just to not grip onto the wheel between death. Take a little bit of a breather. Did look like he nudged the tyres there. He's going to set first lap times. Matty Shepherd is at the top with an 8:53.1. After Grant Van Off his accident, he's now down in third with a 9:08. Tony Tauriti does dip into the 9s with an 8:59.2. I think they may decide that that is enough for them. They just want to put one lap in. Julian Powell has nipped up to third with a 9:07. So just under 6 minutes to go. Matthews Estrella in 7th place. This will be his first time lap. We've got 6 drivers that have set a timed lap. Jimmy Cavallo is a little bit off the pace with a 9:20.8, so I wonder what happened around that lap. So the D50, it's a very interesting looking car. Interesting looking car. The track map has decided to give up on me, so that's served me really well for the race. And because the course is so long, the track map is having an awful lot of problems. So Masaryk pops up to 8th with a 9:20. So currently it's Matty Shepherd at the top. It's actually Cooper Climax top 3. So Shepherd, Tauriti and Power. We've got Gert Van Osch in the load to 16 in 4th. First Lancia D50s through Brown in 5th. We have another Cooper Climax of Van in 6th. Cavallo, the first Maserati 250F, is currently in 8th. Not far behind. With another Ferrari 246. And then we have Matthews Estrella on the screen at the moment, currently in 11th place rather. So we do have 4 cars out on track at the moment. Let's have a look at one of the other drivers. Simon Barnes currently going up the straight. It's green Maserati. It is sheep. There's sheep, there's horses, there's donkeys. So Simon Barnes, look at his first sector. 235.3, so that's like an absolute nightmare in that first section of the racetrack, considering the pace setter is on the 192. The second sector is 202, so lagging behind a little, but as I say, it's not going to be pure speed for the 60 minutes. Drivers are going to just need to survive. 60 minutes around this 25-kilometre course is no small feat. So Simon Barnes has popped in a time of 10 minutes and 21 seconds. So I wonder if Simon Barnes is going to do another lap, perhaps. No, he's decided to take it to the pit lane. Christian Dauger. So let's see where he is on the circuit. He's taking it very slowly, so I wonder if he's decided to Labiola is the only one that's going to set a representative time. So currently in 14th place. Let's see how far up he can get. And it's quite competitive on the first sector and the second sector, so it's not too bad. So how is this going to put him on the grid? The grid is going to be pretty spaced out, as you would expect from so down the straight. Very long straight. So keeping concentration up here, I think is going to be a very big thing as well. Braking really hard, you don't really want to get that wrong. Into there. Across the line, Marius Labiola in second place, stunning lap time. Now that's lap time that is under 9 minutes, so 59.0. And it looks like he is the last to set a time, so I can set the start in order. So with 20 seconds of qualification left, every single car has set their time. There are 2 drivers that didn't decide to set a time and are going to be starting at the back of the grid. So just waiting for the session to roll over and then we can set the starting order and get going with a little bit of warm-up. So I imagine a few people might be trying some standing starts in warm-up. Just getting these cars off the line is going to be quite difficult. So Matty Shepherd takes pole position. We're not close behind is Marius Labiola in the Ferrari. Then we've got Tony Talviti in the Cooper, Julian Powell in the Cooper as well. Gert Van Osch in the only Lotus 16 with Phil Brown in the Lancia in 6th. John Van der Geest in the Cooper. Costas Kanzeris in the Cooper in 8th. Estrella in 9th in the Lancia. Carvalho in the Maserati. And Masaryk in the Ferrari. Then we have Lebro in the Ferrari 246. Simon Barnes in the Maserati. Ben Summers in the Cooper. And we've got lots of our qualifiers. Christian Stauger in the Ferrari. So, we are set for 60 minutes of racing. There are no apparent pit stops. I don't think there should be pit stops. If there are pit stops, it's going to be for fuel. I doubt that these drivers are going to need tyres. These tyres are very, very hard. So I'm relying somewhat on the game showing me the action, because there is a plugin that can change the cameras, which does help an awful lot so that you aren't missing anything. You can switch to the action if it finds a battle, if it finds a crash, you can switch to it. It's very difficult to keep your eye on 15 drivers when you've only got one view. It looks like I might have to do with no track map tonight, which is unfortunate. It has decided to give up on me. Working in qualification, but now it is not. So that is a bit of a blow. Oh, off into the Ungrove. Here's Maddie. Somehow I've been able to kick-start the map so I can see what's going on. So, as I said in the build-up, this is a 6-race championship, so we're starting off at Pescara, and then we're going to be heading off to Germany for the Sachsenring, which is a course that was very similar to this, but it's more flat-out sections, and it's very much shorter. So the 60s version of Sachsenring. And we head off to Northern Ireland to Dundrum for the Grand Prix. And then we head off to Italy for Napoli the 26th of March. Is that the 26th or the 28th? Not sure. Then heading to France on the 2nd of April for Rouen. And then the last round we'll be heading to the Netherlands for Zandvoort. So just under 2 minutes to go. Probably will deciding to go out. Just get a little warmed up for what is going to be a test of concentration. Staying away from everything that looks solid through this first and second sector. You can breathe a sigh of relief when you get onto that main straight, or the first of the main straights. Look for your braking point heading down at the end of that straight, and then go up another one. So keeping your car on the course, keeping it unscathed. The last thing you want to do is take a wheel off at the start of this course and have to go around the entire course to try and put it back on. Or to find out that your pit crew won't put it back on, so it'll be a long lap just to not be able to continue with the race. So self-preservation, I think, is the key. So a very measured approach. Trying to do maths in my head of how many laps we are expecting for 60 minutes. So the lap time is about 9. We could possibly expect, if I could do maths correctly, 7 laps? 7? That seems reasonable. Doing a prompt start there. Checking the bite point of his clutch.
Attention,
here we go. So, 60 minutes around the course called Pescara. 25 kilometers of racing. With 15 drivers. So it looks like we are 3 abreast on the grid. And Shepherd, first of our drivers on the front right. So it looks like no matter whether you got pole or you didn't, the first 3 drivers are technically on pole. So it's Tony Talviti, Labioda and Madden Shepherd. The green lights. And off we go. Slight wheel spin for Labioda as he makes it off the grid and heads to the inside of the course. And we are away. Looks like everyone's got away okay. Talviti and Shepherd are side by side coming up to this first part of the course. The braking point. We've got no particular accidents in the first corner of this track. So the Coopers were very ginger on their brakes coming up there. Looks like Yoda was possibly wanting to beat them on the brakes. So no yellow flags, well done everybody, that was a clean start. Going off out onto into the towns. So that ran off. Always back in 7th after that accidental qualification. He's got some work to do. Sam Barton's Maserati is going to overtake Cooper ahead of Ben Summers. John Brown against us. Very interesting view coming through the village. 5th place. He's chasing Labioda in the Maserati. And I think that's the Ferrari 246. This is the view from the Lotus 16, right behind the Cooper. So it looks like the Cooper and the Lotus could be well matched on Chris's second of this track. There's a little straight, little breather. An outbraking manoeuvre. It's cut the balls a little bit. I expected those posts to be absolutely solid, so I was lucky there. So Costas Kanzeris trying to fight back. But I think Vanos probably has some pace that they don't show in qualification. So it's going to be a bit of a tussle before they settle down after this first lap. Oh, that's a big wiggle moment for the leader. So Maddie Shepherd had a leery moment coming up the hill. I didn't think she was going to hold on to that, but she did. So Estrella trying to get onto the back of Kanzuris and Cooper. It's got back a little to Gert Van Os. And Brown in the answer chasing his Maserati of Cavallo. It's not that Maserati with a little bit of a handful through these tighter sections, but it's a little bit may pull dividends in some of the later tracks on the calendar. So right off now, his next target is John Vandergeest in the Cooper. So we can see who we're chasing. So Tony Talviti in a very rusty, very straight looking Cooper is chasing Madden Shepherd for the lead. Starting in with the Vortex. Vandergeest. And chased by very quick Costas. Down to probably one of the most treacherous parts of the track. Seems to get tighter as we go along. So I'm quickly looking over at my track now. No particular yellow flags are coming up, so these drivers are keeping it between the posts, which is really impressive. At the good to see that everyone survives the first lap. Can't see anyone retire on the first lap at all. I spoke too soon. It looks like that was Phil Brown on a little bit at the moment in the Lancia. So it looks like a real handful. There's two fuel pods on the side there. So Maserati versus Ferrari one way through up the hill. So it looks like the main bro is holding a train of cars behind him with the gap in front. Pescara has got away. Continue to get the Maserati in before 246 mixed up. Very similar looking cars from the rear. So that's very, very wide. That was running off the cameraman. So I think the four cars here. I think once we get to the straight, we'll fancy a chance in the slipstream and passing. Tight section of the track. So one just has to follow the time of the Cooper around this twisty section. So just Scanzorus being shadowed by that Lancia. And the Bro continues to hold up the cars behind as they head into this tighter section of the track. There's more flag there, but I think it has cleared. 13th place at Christian Dowd. I think it may have come to grief, but I think they have got going again. Indeed they have. Come down to Ben Summers because there's a yellow flag for Ben, so maybe he popped off the circuit. So we're going up the straight for the first time. As expected, drafting past, we've got two Ferraris drafting each other with a Maserati. So the first opportunity for the drivers to get an idea of how strong is the draft, what the temperature is going to be like. Side by side with Gert Van Aert and Albiota. Double dip of draft, got to be on the brake sometime. I think that's a bit late. Is he going to have it slowed down? I was quite worried there. I didn't think he was actually going to get that slowed down. He seemed very, very late on the brakes. But looked like Gert Van Aert was able to pass him around the outside as they head up the next straight. So it's a give and take. Possibly drivers could save a little bit of fuel. Side. I've got to wonder about engine temperatures as well. It's something I can't particularly see. I'm wondering whether that might become an issue. I don't really want to be running out against the red line, so I'm going to say it again. Otherwise I won't get that off. So we're coming into this bus stop section at the end of the lap. Going in the braking zone as it gets wrong. That was very, very close. I thought he was actually going to collect. That was very well held. Looks like he locked the wheels coming into the very, very cold brakes. So people are dropping down the order there. Phil Brown lost out on it on that main straight. Gert Van Aert has got going again. It didn't look like he lost any time. Cost fastest cars there is has closed up where he was. So, drivers are unscathed on this first lap. He's got 7th and 8th on the line. That's good to see. Phil Brown having a little bit of an off into the barrels at the end of that. Best lap time out in front, 9:02.8. Drivers do get a fastest lap bonus point for this track, and for this series in general, so well worth going for a fastest lap time. So start off with an absolute doozy at this track. There are no other tracks with drivers lap on the calendar. So 10 minutes have gone in Grand Prix in session. One lap long. So 10 minutes gone at Shepherd, Talbiti, Power, Labiola, and John Barnes in the top 5. So Simon Barnes, I can see there's been someone's in the distance there. Simon Barnes out on his own. Someone's might fancy a draft up the straight if we can get close. I did suspect that this group might get a little bit spaced out once they came to the main straight. I think Cavallo and Barrow may have swapped positions. Van Osh has regrouped and is now back on the tail of John Vanderbeest. As we head through the twisty section. So we've just left Montani and heading to Spoil Tor, which I read from my notes is the highest point of the track. So a great moving up here. Summers did fancy a go at the end of the lap. So this is the battle for the lead. Shepherd and Tony Talbiti. Second of each other. Talbiti just keeping there honest, putting on the pressure. Stay within a second around this track is quite considerable effort. For that Maserati, it's difficult around the twisty sections, but these two Coopers out in front, it looks like the Cooper has been the choice of the field, and I think there are no once you pick the car that you want, I don't think the drivers are allowed to switch, but it might just be well balanced. It might be very light, very low power, but it might be the easiest to handle. Some of the other cars are considerably heavier. It does look like there are a couple of cars that are quite difficult to handle. The Lancia D50, as you can see, Phil Brown chasing after Cavallo, and Maserati does seem to be a little bit of a handful as well. That horsepower with the hard job that's putting it down on the surface. Another look back there in the Ferrari, something that looks a lot like the Maserati in just its shape. The driver sitting way far back on the chassis. So this circuit is very reminiscent of if anyone is kind of familiar with these circuits of the period. Targa Florio is very similar, just heading through public roads. It's a longer circuit, of course. I wouldn't say that Pescara here is short by any means. 25 kilometres is not a short course. It looks like we do have our first DNF. That's unfortunate. So we're going to our first DNF, and we'll drop down the order. To see that we definitely had our first DNF, possibly here after the race, after a few of these drivers. But we are starting off in hard mode really. course like this, but if you can do this course and you handle these cars around here, then the rest of the series can be absolute essentials. One of the tightest corners on the track. Cooper, who is that Cooper? That Cooper is Kanzaros looks like he's dropped back a little now. Is now on his tail. Third and fourth are quite close to go. First and second are now 1.4 seconds beginning. Third and fourth are quite close together. And then you've got this battle for 10th, 11th and 12th. Or is it 9th, 10th, 11th? So back to the third here. So that's small Cooper versus Ferrari. Looks like that Ferrari is able to keep up with the Cooper. The twisty sections, you have to be able to handle on this the heavier and more powerful car. We did see them side by side up the main straight as well. So even though it's low powered, it does have some top speed. Kanzaros is now being shadowed by that Maserati of Cavallo. Just need to find opportunity to pass. Head on board with Cavallo. Up the straight we go. And third and fourth nose to tail. So how does that Ferrari power compare to the Cooper? There's your answer. And pass we go. Very fancy. A double dip. This Kanzaros perhaps. A bit lacking of power. A bit more straight, but if you can get ahead in the braking zone before the twisty section, no particular braking troubles like last time. So side by side, Costas did fancy another dip into the draft and was able to pass that Maserati down straight. I was actually very surprised at what happened. One of the lower powered machines. They've swapped twice on this long straight here. But who's going to be the winner at the end of this straight? Coming down to the last part of the track. So Kanzaros again has gone ahead. I'm sure drivers are thinking ahead into when they want to be placed on the final lap of this race. So you're close to another driver. You've got to think, well, where do you want to be? Do you want to be behind or do you want to be in front on this last section of the track, which is draft dependent? You don't really want to be leading, I don't think. So this must be the third time that these drivers have swapped positions. So now it's Fabiola and Guillermo coming down to this section. So hard. So Maserati versus Lancia. Lancia is feeling like someone wants to have a go. Across the line, third and fourth. We eventually sorted it out by the time we came to the start-finish straight, and it's like ahead of the Cooper. The Cooper has decided I'm going to overtake into the twisty section of this lap. In fact, that Ferrari is a lot better on the brakes, and it will lead this Cooper around the other section of the track. So this Cooper is pretty cheap. We bet to get past this heavy Ferrari through this first section. This first sector of the lap, which is very tight and twisty. So has that Cooper got any choice in that one? You can pass. So the Ferrari's parked in the middle of the road. Looked like it went a little bit wide. Does this Cooper feel like it would jump at the inside? But maybe not enough room and not enough horsepower. Some fabulous battle between these two. A lot of trust between the drivers as well, going side by side through these sections. Julian Powell has been able to get past in this first section. Can he keep it? Sound down a little, so perhaps we can get some better mic volume there. So Julian Powell now out in front, down in this twisty section of the track. 20 minutes gone of this race. Continues to disappear very, very quickly. Yellow flags out on track. Who those are? They have cleared, so it looks like I could see Simon Barnes maybe have come to grief. He's got going again. Let's maybe touch this down a little bit so we can hear what we're doing. There we go. Right, so battle resumed for Labioda and Gert Van Osch. Now Gert Van Osch is now up to 5th place. I think, yes, he has passed John van der Geest. So this will soon be a 3-way battle. Labioda has dropped back a little from Powell, who has now been able to get away through this twisted section, and now Labioda has a Lotus 16 right behind him for company. This will give an opportunity for Julian Powell to get away. So through the twisty section and up the hill. We are at the bottom of the track here. They've just gone past the highest point of the circuit. You can see the view from here as well. So head back down the hill. I did expect that this race would calm down a little, but the action is thick and fast. There's a lot of drivers of similar pace. I imagine that there was going to be they were going to be spaced out by lap 2 or 3, but it looks like they're able to stay with each other. So it looks like Gert Van Osch does have possibly a pace advantage. But again, that Lotus 16, if I look at my list, look at Lotus 16, I think it's the one with it's the lightest car of the bunch at 490 kilos, so maybe that's an advantage compared to the Ferrari, which is 560. Well, they're not too bad in comparison of weight, but the capacity is a big difference. So that Lotus in the back only has a 1964 cc engine. So back to the battle between Cavallo and Masaryk. So this has been raced long at the moment, and it will continue. Oh, as Labioda goes a little bit wide over the hump there, managed to gather it up. I was expecting a big crash, and that should give Gert Van Osch some confidence that he may have. It might just be a matter of time. As I said, that Gert Van Osch gets it all out of shape. Hopefully that suspension is not bent, but that means he's dropped back a little. And this is giving a chance of Labioda to get away, but Gert Van Osch is right back on the pace. So we're going to have a three-way battle for draft down this straight. as they enter the second part of this track. Van Osch is really hanging it out, so heading onto the straight. What has the latest 16 got for the Ferrari ahead? Is he too far back now? So if we look at the gaps. So within a second, Labiota and Julian Powell. He's got the whiffs of the draft there, but he may be a bit too far ahead. And Van Osch is 1.6, so a little bit further out of the draft, but he may have a little bit of a pace advantage. So here we go, Ferrari versus Maserati. Cavallo in the Maserati leading Masaryk in the Ferrari. Looks like the Ferrari can gain a little bit. It's getting closer and closer on this first straight. And this is the battle for 9th and 10th, so battles all the way down the field. So two Lanciers together, Estrella and Brown. So Masaryk has been able to pass that Maserati in front. Straight is long enough to have a double dip. Here he goes again. As you come down to the end of the straight, you've got to watch yourself with draft. You've gained a little bit of speed in the draft. Pick your braking point sensibly. You don't want to be braking right at the end of your braking capacity, especially with that little bit of an extra speed. We've got a battle with the Lanciers just ahead of them for 7th and 8th. Estrella and Brown. So on to the second straight. On board with Phil Brown. Side by side. Let's do the railway. Don't know if that's railway or tram track. So both the 7th and 8th and 9th and 10th are side by side down the straight. So it looks like there's a huge gap from 9th downwards. In fact 10th downwards. So there's the Lanciers. This is the Maserati and the Ferrari. Now, as I said in the build-up, we're not really expecting any pit stops at all. I would say survival would be the name of the game, so just keeping your nose clean, no damage. You don't really want to be banging off any of the hard objects to give yourself suspension damage. I can't imagine that driving around this course with any kind of suspension damage is going to be any fun at all. So Gert Van Osch has got ahead of those two. He is now in 3rd. Labiota was hard on the brakes there. I saw that squirming. I saw that car squirming and thinking he was right on the edge of traction. He managed to keep it under control though and not too much damage hopefully. He managed to miss Julian Powell. And again we're back with the Maserati and Ferrari battle down the straight. Where's the braking point? Somewhere around here. So let's see if we're braking in a straight line. No particular troubles for these two, thankfully. So Gert Van Osch has to pull a gap. Labiota with that little bit of an off has dropped off the end of these two, so this Cooper and Lotus battle may be on their own. Whoa! As Cavallo goes round, I think he's got a gap 2 behind, so he's not going to lose any places, but well held. So half distance. It's Shepherd that leads. Now that lead has gone up to 9 seconds. I don't know whether there was a little off for Tauviti that has dropped him back. They are comparable in best lap times Last lap time for Maddie Shepherd was 8:54. Tony Taubiti was a little lagging behind with a 9-minute lap, so that's perhaps where the time went. Big gap to third, but Gert Van Osch has had to make his way up from about, I believe it was about 9th place where he started. So Phil Brown has now broken away from Estrella behind, so it's now not a Lancia battle anymore. It's soon to be a Lancia versus a Cooper. So what does the Lancia have for the Cooper of John van der Geest ahead? So we wind their way through the town section. Oh, Phil Brown gets it all wrong. Up the hills he goes. It looks like he's managed to avoid any solid objects in the forms of other cars. That's unfortunate for Phil Brown. He has got it going again, so that's good. Just on the limit of grip through that section, the twistiest sections of this track. Now back with the Maserati of Cavallo. So with half distance, it is Shepherd that leads, Taubiti second, Van Osch in third, Powell and Labioda in fourth and fifth, John van der Geest in sixth, Estrella seventh, Masaryk eighth, Brown, as you can see on the screen, in ninth, and Cavallo rounding out the top 10. Side by sides, Ben Summers and it looks like Simon Barnes is pulling off there. I wonder if Simon Barnes has had some trouble. Perhaps he's deciding to retire the car. So that is not the pit entry there, so Cavallo has been able to pass Phil Brown. I wonder if Phil Brown has got a little bit of damage after that accident. So the accident further back. That is Estrella. Estrella has gone around. He's behind a post there. He did manage to get it going. Unfortunately, he's now down to 11th place, so a costly mistake. That's left Canzeris to overtake into 10th. Down into this flat out section of the course. Scary section that it is. And it does look like Masaryk seems to have come to grief as well. Phil Brown bouncing off the barrier. Those posts are solid, that's for sure. I imagine it probably would be a good job too if you have got suspension damage to just come in and get it fixed. I don't really want to be doing a lap around this course with any kind of bent steering. But just as half distance, I think maybe the concentration is starting to wane on some of these guys. Keeping these cars unscathed on the first and second sector of this lap. So the Lancia goes through on Canceris there. Maybe Canceris feels like that Estrella maybe has a little more pace. So it's all shaking out, and Cavallo's now up to 7th. He was back in 10th a minute ago, so things have turned on their head in the latter end of the top 10. Was that Phil Brown going off? I saw a car going absolutely flying in the background. Phil Brown is down the hill and possibly a second retirement. I saw a Lancia going sideways across the screen. It looks like he has got going again. Is he going to be able to get up to the to where the track is? Do you know where the track is, Phil? It's up here somewhere. Can he get over the barrier though? Is there a space in the barrier up here? There is indeed. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Phil Brown survives. Right, back onto the straight for Maserati and Cavallo. So Ferrari versus Maserati again. This seems to be a habit for these guys. And again, I've said it before, where do you place the car? Do you want to be in front when it comes to the final lap? There are apparently on my UI here, I can see there are 3 laps to go for this last half an hour of the race. I think the leader would possibly not want to do an extra lap if she can help it. Looking at the lead as well, it's been cut down to 4 seconds on this lap. So maybe Shepherd has had a little off on this lap, and Calviti's got a little closer. I'm keeping an eye on Van Osch in third. 20 seconds gap. I'm seeing that come down. Indeed it was. Talviti puts the fastest lap of the racing at 8:53. It's the fastest lap of the race. I wonder if that's going to be beaten. About a second and a half better than Maddie Shepherd's first lap. Or Maddie Shepherd's fastest lap. So I don't know if that can be beaten. And again, that's a bonus point for fastest lap. Now, what I didn't say on the outset was we are using the old point system for this series because we are in the 1950s, so it would be 8, 6, 4, 3 and 2. Braking hard. At the end of this straight, they both get it stopped, no particular worries. That's good to see. Maserati Power trying to get down onto the tarmac, but struggling. Went a little bit wide. No particular problem though. Back up across the line. Maserati just looked like a handful though, doesn't it? I'll have to see if I can get the car logos sorted for the next round, which will make it easier to know what car is what. So I'm going to get mixed up between these Maseratis and these Ferraris. It's not going to get any better. It is what it is. So first 3 are away from the rest of the field. Bit of a gap to 3rd and 4th. We've got that battle between 6th, 7th and 8th. Yeah, this at the moment is the closest battle on the track between 7th and 8th. So through up to the 2nd sector, up to the highest point on the track. Well, in fact, these guys are just coming to the highest point of the track. They're not quite there yet. So if you have to think back then, this Grand Prix would have taken place in 1957. All of these cars would have taken some part in that if they were still around. The one car that we don't, in fact 2 cars that we don't have in the field. The Aston Martin DBR4 and the Connaught Type B. So the Aston Martin DBR4 wouldn't have actually taken part in this Grand Prix back in 1957. There were several teams that took the same chassis. The Maserati 250F was used by several people, and I imagine the Cooper Climax was as well. Oh, that's a big off for... Is that Ben Summers? I think that is Ben Summers. He got it all wrong. Coming out of that corner there onto the straight. That might be a three-wheeled Cooper. So I think he was just behind. Who was he just behind? He was behind Simon Barnes at that point. So that's one of the biggest accidents we've seen, apart from Phil Brown's Lancia that headed off into the scenery. But that was a big hit. And it did look like he maybe only had 3 wheels, so he's got to perhaps do the rest of the straight, or the second straight, until he gets to the pits. In the end, the pit group might say, no, I'm not putting that back on. So Canzuras and Estrella now nose to tail. That Lancia looks like speedier coming up these short straights here, but he just can't get a break to get up the inside. I'm very surprised at how well the Cooper is doing and how well it's able to hang on. I think when it possibly loses the draft to some of the faster cars, then it's a bit more vulnerable. But as long as you can stay with these faster, heavier cars through the middle section of the lap, seem to be okay. So it looks like the gap for the lead has broken out. It is now up to about 6.3 seconds. And I was looking at the gap for third. It has grown. It was 20 seconds, it's now gotten up to 24, so Van Osh's time in third was comparable to the fast lap, only about 3 tenths away, 8:53.7 compared to 8:53.3. So close, he's got the pace, but he doesn't got a pace advantage to close that amount of time. So up the hill we go. So patience is the key here. I think we can outbrake down into the hairpin. So Ben Summers looks like he may have headed into the pits. In fact, he's got a penalty. Why would Ben Summers have a penalty there? Track limit penalty, perhaps? Because he's not actually near the pit lane. That's quite tight. Coming down here, that's quite a tight place to pass. Austin's had his car on the inside. It wasn't really a place to get through. Especially the Lancia being one of the widest cars in the field. It does look like Estrella wants to get past, but all he's going to have to do is wait through this section here. Until you get to the first straight. And he wants to get past as soon as possible. I think perhaps he wants to be able to stretch his legs out onto the straight and break the draft from the Cooper. Otherwise it's just going to be a thorn in his side. So out onto the straight he goes. Looks like he'll be able to draft past. We've seen cars drafting past about 3 or 4 times on the straight. Now if I was Estrella, I would possibly stay in the draft and overtake at the last minute and then try and pull away. And that looks like what he's doing. So no sudden moves. quite intrigued to see what the telemetry is like for these guys coming up the main straight. So Estrella flat out 288 kilometers an hour. 292. Late on the brakes, it was very, very close. I thought that was going to be a collision, but he managed to get it stopped. So he now needs to possibly try and break away. But that Cooper's going to be right in the draft. It's going to be able to come right back at him. Here we go. So where do you want to be on this final lap? We have 1.9 laps to go. The leader has just crossed the line. So as long as that Cooper can stay in the draft and he's able to stay near, Lancia's going to have another go at the end of this straight. It's quite a tight end to this straight with a chicane at the end, so drivers got to be very, very careful. I mean, another tactic would be to perhaps put the driver off in front. It looks like that Lancia has very good brakes. That Cooper looked like, as I say it, he brakes way too late. As they have let the Cooper through. I did think that he was braking a little bit later than that Cooper. In fact, too late. Couldn't quite get it stopped, so Canzou's just had to be very wary of this big Lancia weaving about on his brakes. So that Cooper is now broken away a little. Can it now stretch its leg through the tighter section of the track? Can actually now see that Phil Brown has DNF'd. I did see a yellow flag out on the track. I think Phil Brown may have DNF'd somewhere else out on course. Also seeing it's a very slow Simon Barnes. Track map is very deceiving. This Maserati getting all crossed up trying to get onto terms with Van der Geest. These pesky Coopers. So John Van der Geest is not too far ahead of Maserati, and you can see Cavallo is not far behind either. You can see that blue flash of the Maserati not far from. So it goes off just in the background there. Oh, Cavallo gets it all wrong coming down into that chicane. Gets it going again. Just braking a little bit too late. I think his brakes are getting a little bit hot. Now that they've been going through these sections for just under 50 minutes. So now that's dropped. He's still in the top 10, Cavallo, but he's dropped back a little. And the drivers ahead. Is that Simon Barnes deciding to call it quits? Just wondering where Simon Barnes actually is at the moment. It's coming up to the third sector of the lap, so anybody spun it around and is facing the wrong way down a driveway somewhere. It's also seeing that is fourth place has just come to grief, I think. Fourth place of Julian Powell. I saw a yellow flag. That means that third is now away. So John Van der Geest and Maserati now nose to tail. So Maserati was able to catch up quite fast, even when he had that Larry moment. He was able to catch up with John Van der Geest looks very Larry in that Cooper. I wonder whether he's suffering from a little bit of steering damage. See, or that Cooper is not handling very well over the the bumps. And I think we've had another DNF as well. Maybe that was the yellow flag that I was seeing. So Labiota, unfortunately, has come to grief somewhere. And will be our third retirement. So with just 10 minutes to go, they are dropping like proverbial flies. But still out front. We haven't seen Maddie Shepherd or Talviti very much because they haven't really been close to each other. But now the lead is down to 2.4 seconds. And I've just seen the fastest lap of the race. Tony Talviti is putting an 8:50.0. So that's going to be the fastest lap of the race. I don't think anyone has anything for him. And I don't think that lap has been draft assisted either, so it will probably stand to the end of the race. Ooh. Off we go. We saw him trying to catch it on the brakes, but he got a swapper on, but couldn't quite catch it. As we do see Talviti, the fastest car on the circuit at the moment. And Julian Powell now down to 4th place. So it's Cooper leading, Cooper in 2nd, Lotus 16 in 3rd, Cooper 4th, Cooper 6th, Cooper 5th rather. And 6th place is the Maserati 250F. So John Vandergeest. Yes, it was Masaryk that had that problem, so he's now dropped down to 7th place. Oh, Masaryk had a problem there, it looked like. He collided with the scenery, and unfortunately the two cars behind, following close, didn't quite read the situation and got caught up in it. So I wonder whether Masaryk is now suffering from a little bit of damage. And looking on the track map, he's only about a third of the way round the course. Right, the leaders are just coming to the end of the long straight. Now they're within sight of each other. That's Maddie Shepherd. There's Tony Talviti in close proximity. And Talviti is pushing on. Maybe this is his time to shine. Coming down the main straight here. And looking at the lap times as well, Maddie Shepherd had an invalid lap last time out, so I wonder whether a couple of track limits here and there. There's plenty of places to do it. So Cooper versus Cooper for the first race. I'm also seeing that unfortunately Christian Dauger has had a problem. Looks like he possibly got a little bit of oversteer going to the right and the corner was going left. So Kanzuris cannot shake Estrella right behind. From 7th and 8th. The battle for the lead has really closed up in the first portion of this lap, so we've got one final lap with just under 7 minutes to go. So under a second between Talviti and Shepherd for the lead of this race. You see a slight yellow flag for 9th place. That was perhaps Masaryk, who's trying to drag that Ferrari home. So points down to 5th place for these drivers. So 8, 6, 4, 3 and 2 with a fastest lap point. And that last lap, Tony Talviti was able to go 1 second faster. He's now fastest lap of the race, 8:49.5. So he's been able to find some time. And it's like Ben has another, but that's a track limit penalty again for Ben. So Ben Summers is not having the greatest of times. So Kanzuris, Estrella down this long straight. But this is the battle we're worrying about for first and second. So now two Coopers are within a second of each other. What's the drafting battle going to be like? Heading on to this final section of the race. So Lancia versus Cooper. Lancia goes for an overtake. Now brake a little bit earlier this time. We did see that the Lancia got a little bit wrong on the brakes. Now either the Cooper was able to hold him off side by side, or perhaps this is a tactic. Nearly got it all wrong. Perhaps Kazuras was a bit earlier on the brakes than Australia was thinking. It's very difficult to spot your braking point at the end of that big long straight. You know, the scenery is moving very fast. So now the Lancia is ahead. Can it actually break away? So coming to the last section of the lap. So it goes a little bit wide. See the yellow flag out on track. That is Simon Barnes. It is Simon Barnes. I'm not sure where that is on the track. He was just about to be passed by the leaders. He's parked up near the side of the road, maybe just completely out of the way. He probably knows that the leaders are coming. So Estrella now has to hold off a Cooper for this first section of the lap. Back to the leaders. Taufiti is pushing, trying to cut these corners. Does Shepherd have anything in response? Side by side, Lancia versus Cooper back to this battle, 7th and 8th. So even though no points on the line for this, doing it for the love of the game. So we're going to be switching back. I wish I had split screen because we don't know what battle to watch here between first and second and 7th and 8th. Mazarek has decided to pull it into the pits. I'm wondering if that will be permanent. Because if it is damaged, then they possibly won't be out again by the time the leaders come across the line. So the leaders are coming to the end of the first section. I'm intrigued to know what's going to happen between the drafting of these two Coopers. Again, 7th and 8th, nose to tail is now the Cooper. Run away! And that Lancia. And these corners very... Oh! I knew it may happen. Taufiti may have cut that corner just a bit too fine there. That might be challenge over. I saw Shepherd cutting that corner close to the post. I think maybe Taufiti tried to follow. Got it a bit out of shape. And possibly hit the outside post there. So that may be challenge over. Unless something dramatic happens. Bit of a shame really, because they were coming to one of the fastest points of the circuit where the drafting battle was about to happen. So 1 minute on the clock. The clock will run down by the time Shepherd gets to the end of the lap, which will mean the race is over. So the car stopped out on track. Did we just witness unfortunately Kanzuras come to grief on the last lap? That is a shame. Estrella has now been able to pull a gap. I heard the tyres screech and I was looking away. So I'm wondering what happened. That is Ben Summers. He looks like he is missing a wheel out on that back straight there. So what might have been for Talviti has now dropped 15 seconds. 15 seconds adrift. Either he's got damage or he's decided that survival is the best course of action. He's looking at 7 points for this Grand Prix. 6 points for second and 1 point for fastest lap. So I'm looking at my sheet here. I might as well try and figure out some of the points. As Matty Shepherd's going to the end of this main straight, and we'll be turning right and heading on to the next part of it. So it's a good return to some of the classic tracks that we do here at Sim Racing Online. I mean, some of the classic tracks and classic cars are my forte. I prefer them. They just have I don't know, a bit more, maybe it's the nostalgia aspect to it. I find they just have a bit more character. So Matty Shepherd just coming down the last straight for the final time. It's been a good run for Matty Shepherd. Pulled a little bit of a lead at the start. Was able to pull out about a 9-second lead, but Tony Talviti was able to get faster as the Grand Prix went on. I was considerably impressed by Gert Van Osch. I was able to bring that later 16 through the field. Currently sitting on the podium as it stands. That gap has stayed about 23 seconds behind second place. Matty Shepherd comes down to the end of the lap here. And the final corner, and Matty Shepherd will cross the line in style. We have a car waiting for her. They didn't want to do another lap, and I do not blame them. So Matty Shepherd does a cool down lap. In the end, Tony Talviti is several seconds adrift. Coming up to the final corner. Lovely looking scraped paint job. Close but not quite close enough. Gert Van Osch is 12 seconds adrift and will be coming over the line in shortly. And there he is. Gert Van Osch comes over the line in third. And here is Julian Powell. Nearly a podium, but not quite. But fourth is a good result for Julian. Nearly getting it all wrong right at the end. It would be a shame to stack it into the barrier right at the final two corners of the lap. But Julian Powell will go over the line for fourth place. Scott will be pleased with that. A wiggle of the wheel, I think, suggests that he's probably very proud of that. Van der Geest come through the final two corners to come home in fifth place. And round the final corner and across the line to finish 5th. Cavallo is coming home in 6th. Lots of good adventures that Cavallo had. Have been down in about 10th place, but benefited through misfortune to others. And comes home in 6th place. Estrella in that Lancia D50 was able to break away from Costas in the end. Unfortunately, Costas had that off. So Estrella is going to come home in 7th place. Unfortunately, missing out on points. But I think just getting to the end of this race is is good enough. And 8th place for Kanzuras coming across the line in 8th. And Masaryk, I think, has already parked it in 9th. I did see that he was parked on the previous lap. I think he's decided that it was much easier parking it. He didn't think he was actually going to gain anything for doing an extra lap. So there we go. I believe everyone is finished. I can see people stopped on the circuit around the track map, but I don't think that is a true representation of what's going on track. So let's see if I've got the points correct. So let's look at our finishing order. So session results. So Shepherd comes away with the win. Tony Talviti will get 2nd place. He will get an extra point for fastest lap. Gert Van Osch comes away with 3rd place. Julian Powell in 4th. John Vandergeest in 5th. Jim Cavallo in 6th. Matthias Estrella in 7th. Then we have Costas Kanzuras, unfortunate at the end to collide with the scenery, but comes home in 8th place. Masaryk in 9th. Christian Dauger comes home in 10th. And if we go over the page, we have Simon Barnes comes home 11th, the last of our runners technically. So Simon Barnes, can't see him in my list. There he is. There he is. Marius Labioda dropped down the order, unfortunately. I think Labioda was the one sitting on the line waiting for the leader to come through. Didn't want to do another lap, so maybe damage prevented them from doing another lap. A very big off for Phil Brown. We saw him flying across the screen a couple of times. Eventually, he retired in 13th. We saw Ben Summers without a wheel in 14th. And our first of our do not finishes was unfortunately Romain Lebreau in 15th. So I will take those points up to give you next week. But if we look at what we're doing in the coming weeks, so we are off to, where are we off to? The server is rolling over, so my titles have disappeared. There we go, we're going to Sachsenring on the 12th of March. So in a week's time, so we're doing these races in quite quick succession. So the 12th of March we'll be heading to Germany for the Sachsenring race. And then we'll be going to the Northern Ireland for Dundrod, which will be a nice tight Grand Prix through the, I was going to say the streets of Dundrod. It's not really the streets, it's through the countryside. That will be the 19th of March. Then we're heading over to Italy for the Napoli Grand Prix. So we'll have nice views over the seaside coasts of Napoli, going through the streets. That'll be the 26th of March. And then we'll be heading to France for Rouen on the 2nd of April, and then heading to the beaches of the Netherlands for Zandvoort on the It's at the 9th of April. That is the 9th of April. So, what a Grand Prix. I'd imagined that we wouldn't have too many at the end, but a lot of drivers survived. I was very, very impressed. So, we may expect a few drivers back next week for our next Grand Prix. So, what have we got coming up at Sim Racing Online? So, Sim Racing Online, we've got several series on the go, several championships. Let's have a look at our calendar. So, on Saturday, the 7th of March, we have the Assetto Corsa Evo Discovery Series, and that is taking place on a Saturday. BMW M4 versus the Maserati. Then on the Sunday, March the 8th, will be the next round. We'll be back on this YouTube channel for the next round of the Le Mans Ultimate P2 versus GT3 Championship. I believe it's at Bahrain, and it will be a night race, so that should be interesting. So I'll be in the commentary booth along with Rob Milliken. Then Saturday, March the 14th, we will be back here for the Group DRM Championship, Group 5 DRM Championship, 1780s Championship. So that will be me in the booth, and we'll be covering that. That should be fun. It's always a good watch. Powerful cars at very small tracks. So I think we're heading to the Nürburgring for the next one, the GP circuit rather than the Nordschleife. Then we're starting a new series on March the 21st. So Saturday, March the 21st, will be a street fight. So street cars around some street tracks. So that should be interesting. So head to simracingonline.co.uk if you want to take part. And then on Sunday, Sunday the 22nd of March will be the last round of the Mazda MX-5 Cup. So I will be taking part in that, I think. So that is round 6, I think, if I've done my numbers correctly. And I'm kind of glad to see the back of that Mazda MX-5. So, thank you for watching, everybody. I've been your host, Neil Wood, and I hope to see you next round, joining us here at Sim Racing Online for either the Group 5 Championship or the 1950s Championship, or even the Le Mans Ultimate Championship that we broadcast here. So that's all from me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.